This is Free Speech News, and it is March 8th, 2021, and we've had some pretty big days of news over the past few days, and today I want to point out and talk about something dealing with election integrity. As we have Joe Biden Sunday releasing an executive order to expand the federal government's role in voter registration, citing the insurrection on Capitol Hill as motivation. Per this Breitbart report, and Joe Biden stating that Republicans are on an all-out assault on the right to vote across the country and have more than 250 bills for securing the future of our elections. Many are laws for voter ID, electoral observers to be present during counting, and assigning a judge promptly for election lawsuits. And Joe Biden says that that is making it harder to vote. It's honestly like these people do not care what they say, and they will do it right in front of us. I mean, what kind of person fights voter ID laws when literally we need everything for an ID? I mean, you need an ID just to get your kid cough medicine. But we do not have IDs to vote for our officials who run this country. It's insane. Having the right to watch, to make sure that there is no cheating on either side, that is going to make it harder. No, it's going to make it harder for them to get away with it. It's going to make it harder to do something illegal. That's it's going to be harder. Not making it harder to vote, but making it harder to illegally vote. But yet, these Democrats want to fight this. Yes, it should be harder to vote. That is a good thing. And the executive order requires every federal government agency to use its resources to promote access and information about voter registration and election information, including using their websites and social media. Does that not sound a little crazy to you? Or maybe it's just me. But why would we take time away from our federal officials to promote all of this and getting them involved? It's just not right. Yes, it is a federal election. The presidential election is federal. But the Constitution, it still says that laws and they are supposed to be set for by the state in the legislators for election laws and running that election. It's just an odd executive order. And I wonder why it's an executive order. Because that's the only way he would get it through. And it's just like with all these agendas they have, and the most egregious agenda is them trying to push that trans people are able to do and be with girls in every aspect, which is the most outrageous thing I've heard, and is part of the reason why I got into political stuff. And we have Press Secretary Jen Psaki, was asked about an amendment that was introduced into the COVID-19 bill that would defund schools that were allowing trans to play in girls' sports. And honestly, I think that is a great thing to happen. But anyways, she responds like this.
The Senate, before approving the ARP on Saturday, defeated an amendment that would have defunded schools and universities under Title II if they allow transgender kids in athletics. However, that amendment got support from senators on both sides of the aisle, including Susan Collins and Joe Manchin. As head of the Democratic Party, did the president express any regret that that measure got bipartisan support?
Well, first, let me say the president's position on the rights of transgender kids to play sports is clear. He signed an executive order, and he believes transgender rights are human rights and wants to see kids have the opportunity to play sports and participate in a range of activities. I would say we expected, as there often is with vote-a-ramas, there to be a range of amendments that he would oppose, and this certainly would have been one of them, but I don't have anything more to read out for you in terms of his specific concerns.
Now for my colleague, who asks, given that multiple members of President Biden's staff going to the U.S.
So you heard it there, and basically they don't care if trans are playing in girl and women's sports. And I guess it's about human rights. But I'm sorry, human rights does not mean you let a biological man play in women's sports or let them join a woman in a bathroom. I say, how about when there is enough trans people, because I am not against them doing their own thing, they can have their own league of sports. We have men, women, and trans. They can have their own thing. They do not have to join the women because they say or they feel that they are a woman. What about the men who are predators, who are going to use this to their advantage? And you know there will be people out there that will do this. And how and why people support this is just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. This has nothing to do with human rights. And maybe if like more scientists came out and said, hey, it's just a fact that men are biological a lot different than women. And that's just the truth. That's just the truth. There's no denying that. There's no changing that anytime soon. And I honestly think that most of America doesn't even support this type of thing. I don't know how someone could go along with this. And I have a daughter, and I'll be damned if she's in the bathroom or playing sports with another man. It's insane. And speaking of them trying to push this agenda, and really the blueprint for America in California is trying to introduce a bill that would require gender-neutral clothing and toy safe zones for kids. That's right, kids. To find their identities. And even more, which I think this is a little insulting, Evan Lowe, a Democrat assemblyman out of California, said in the LA Times report that they hope to inspire more girls to get into science and engineering and mathematics and not have the dinosaurs and the periodic tables just in the boy sections. Quote, we just want kids to be kids, end quote. And is that not a little sexist? So women are not smart enough, or they already don't get into science or math or engineering? It has to be pushed on them to do it? No, that's why you have science and social studies and etc. in school, to try to find out if you like those things. And yes, they are important to know, but if you like those things, you move forward with them. And I'm not sure how many there is in each category, but I'm sure there's a lot of women in engineering and in science. And I bet it's a whole hell of a lot. And these people just say these things with no stats. And especially nowadays, women are more independent than ever. And yeah, Evan, let the kids be kids. Let them grow up on their own instead of pushing this onto them. Because we have kids are already trying to find their identity in life in general. They don't need to worry about their gender or seeing a penis while they're going to the bathroom. Let them be kids. And when they are old enough to know, they could do it on their own. And then it'll be okay then. But all these leftists pushing this sort of stuff on kids should literally be arrested for child abuse. Because that is what it is, and it makes me sick. It is sickening to the stomach. These people are, I don't know if they truly believe these sort of things, or if it's just all about politics, because I literally don't know how anyone can support these sort of things. But we must fight back against this. And moving on, we also have the next news break. It is the CDC coming out with new guidelines, which are literally redundant and really isn't too much of a change from the common sense approach and study we do every day individually. Because the new guidelines say that fully vaccinated can now meet with family members that are non-vaccinated without a mask. Yeah, we know. Isn't that the point of getting vaccinated? And by the way, people who have the antibodies, they don't need to wear a mask either, but the CDC hasn't said anything about that, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I have been meeting all my family members every single day. They work, I work, and we've been okay so far. I'm not going to stop seeing my family members. It's just not going to happen. And I'll be damned if I'm wearing a mask inside my house. Now, per Gateway Pundit, as they always do, excellent reporting, the guidelines, I want to say, are just common sense. It's just common sense. And speaking of the CDC, another study finds that 78% of people hospitalized, needed a ventilator, or died from COVID-19 were overweight or obese. And I don't know the exact numbers or what they go off of, because I'm 5'10", 195, and they like to say I'm overweight, which I'm totally not. It makes no sense. So are we talking about the extreme or high obese people? I'm not sure. But regardless, the number will still be high. And reported over the weekend that death rates were 10 times higher in counties with high obesity. And I guess better late than never. And again, this is something we already knew, but to have an exact number proves it for me. But we already knew that the unhealthy, the obese, diabetes, the elderly, etc., they are vulnerable, yes, but the healthy young and kids have a very low infection rate. But we have these schools locked down and kids failing school because they are not in the classroom. You know, thanks CDC for the advice. But maybe your advice should be that we can reopen schools and businesses because it is about time. as we are starting to see state after state and mask mandates and lockdowns, they see the data themselves. And let's see how long the Dems hold us hostage. We'll have to wait and see. This must end. And this has to end now. We must reopen America fully. And another report that caught my eye was news of Durham and DNI Ratcliffe as he was on Sunday Morning Futures. DNI Ratcliffe says that Durham and himself agreed that there was no intel from the intel community that reflected actual, real Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. But there was intelligence that it was created by the Hillary Clinton campaign and that there was no proper predicate for a crossfire hurricane to begin. So yes, that sounds like some huge news. But if people don't pay for the crimes they committed, then who cares if they agreed? Because we know so far Durham has only charged one person by the name of Kevin Kleinsmith, who pleaded guilty to altering an email related to Carter Page. But what is that? That is nothing. That is a slap on the wrist. And we will know what side Durham is on, the law or the deep state. Because we have Hillary Clinton, who is running against Donald Trump, getting the FBI involved and pushing a fake narrative to try to win because her emails got leaked. And when she didn't win, they kept it going to try to sabotage the incoming president. And they spied on his campaign. And they spied on him in the presidency. And it is just unheard of. We have James Comey, the then director of the FBI, on live TV bragging about what he did. I mean, these people knowingly broke the law. They spied on Trump family associates, all on a false pretext that they knew was false. And so far, none of them have paid for it. And unless Durham does a mass arrest, which I do not see happening at all, and there have been no leaks, so nobody truly knows. But taking this long and nothing to be done yet, I do not get. And we'll just have to wait to see if Durham is a traitor to America or if he is about law and order. And if people don't pay for what they did, what kind of precedent does that set for future people to do things like this? I will be staying on top of it, and we'll just have to wait and find out, hopefully before 5 years, and see the Durham report and see what happens.